Hey guys, welcome. I'm so excited today. I'm here with my friend Selena Soo. I've been waiting, honestly, for this interview for months because I had this idea and I know we wanted to do it, but there wasn't the right time beforehand, and now it's just the perfect time to do it. So Selena and I are going to be talking about getting publicity for your ultimate guys today. And in case you don't know Selena yet, she's like the go-to expert for publicity. If you want to learn about publicity, about being featured in Forbes or Business Insider or Inc. or any of those things, you go to Selena. It's that simple. She has other courses. She's amazing at connecting with influencers, all these other things. But like with publicity, she really is the #1 expert. So welcome to the call, Selena.
Thank you, Primoz. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Cool. So let's dive in. We're going to be talking about 3 things today. First, we're going to be talking about one of your ultimate guides that you've created. Then we're going to be talking about, how you as the publicity expert would actually go about promoting ultimate guides. And third, we're also going to be talking about your Impacting Millions program, because I think for my advanced students specifically, it's just an amazing program that they can really benefit from. So first of all, let's talk about your ultimate guide. Can you tell us a little bit about your guide? And first of all, how you even got the idea of creating an ultimate guide?
Sure. So the ultimate guide that I created was called The Ultimate Guide to Meeting People at Events. And I was just thinking about my career and business. And for me, so much of what has happened is because of the people that I've met and the things we've created together. I think one of the most powerful things is to meet people at events. A lot of people will say things like, well, I don't live in New York City like you, or, I've got kids, I can't just travel to events. But I think for every entrepreneur who is serious about really growing their business in a big way, it is worthwhile to invest in 1 or 2 events per year to go to, where the conference organizers, usually a team of people, have spent several months, if not a year, planning this event, putting marketing dollars and advertising around making sure the right people are in the room, selecting the right speakers, curating the activities. As an attendee, you just get to show up and benefit from all the goodness. So I just felt like that was important. And I know the power of meeting people at events and how it speeds up that know, like, and trust factor, and how people start building partnerships or promoting each other or doing webinars or connecting them to interesting people or giving feedback and ideas that is worth so much money. So I just felt like, a big passion of mine is these relationships and also getting big opportunities. And I feel like events is a big part of it. And I had read a lot of interesting articles here and there, but I didn't really see an ultimate guide that consolidated the best of the best. And so I felt inspired to create it. There were a couple of reasons. One was I was launching my networking course, Influence, and I just wanted to put some epic thought leadership content out there so people could get a sense of the quality of my work, the depth of my ideas. And, I felt like the guide was in depth, but it wasn't giving away the course, because meeting people at events is just one aspect of, building that network. So I felt really good about that. I felt really driven to do something different and really high quality. And then I was also going to my mentor, Ramit Sethi's event. Why am I blank? Forefront, like Ramit's Brain Trust, Growth Lab, no, Forefront. And I just felt like it would be helpful for me to create this for the attendees there. And what ended up happening, which was so insane, is that people loved it so much that even the organizer, Bevan, shared it with people in an email. Primoz, I believe you and other people that were part of Ramit's team would share it in different Facebook groups like ZTL, Accelerator. People shared it on social media. And one point I want to make is that, we all want people to kind of spread the word about what we're doing, but there are certain things that are going to get more publicity, just like natural publicity, than others. So if you're like, hey, I've got a webinar, a lot of people are not going to share the webinar link, on social media. Or like, hey, my sales page is up. Like, they're not going to share that. But they will share an ultimate guide, because that is something that is in depth, something that someone has invested a lot in. And it's just an incredible resource. And people want to, be generous and share great resources. So there was just a lot of organic traffic from, people just thinking it was cool. And also from my audience, I mailed it to my list and I encouraged people to share it, and they shared it like crazy. And there was, traditional publicity that came out of that too. And we can go to that in a sec, but, I was inspired because I felt like it was something that, was valuable to people, and other people saw it too. And it was just like, it just went naturally viral.
Awesome. I love it. I love so many things that you mentioned, actually. From the first thing, I have this frustration all the time, when you have a topic that you are passionate about, but there's just no great content around it. You're like, there's the articles, there's tips, there's everything, but there's no one resource that you could go to learn about, an event. And, by creating one, that's awesome because it helps so many people that go to Forefront or that go to other events, and it makes everybody's life so much better because they come prepared. And there's just way less awkward conversations and way more great conversations. So I love that. I also love it, because you created this resource once and it already blew up. It blew up around Forefront. It's also going to continue to blow up in the future. When next Forefront comes up, what's going to happen? Everybody's going to read your guide because it's so good. It's the best piece of content on the internet. And they're going to keep reading it over and over and over again. That's why I love it. It's almost like an evergreen content, right?
Yeah, and I just really want to emphasize that it is evergreen. It's different than posting an article on your blog, even though you could, but that's dated, or even an article that, gets featured in a great media publication. That's obviously huge, and that's what I teach, but that also is something that's dated. Versus this is like truly evergreen content. It's always relevant. And it was so rewarding. I was hearing about people who a week or two before Forefront, they would print out the guide and they would have a partner and they would get on Skype and go through the questions for the event and prepare for it, based on the guide. And I saw people with actual printouts with the sheets, stapled together with their notes. And it was the most rewarding thing. It's definitely one of the best things I've done in my business is to create this guide. And I'm not somebody who is actually a content machine. I'm a pretty slow writer. I don't know. I'm kind of a less is more person. I do put out a lot of content around my launches and that's where I share my best content. But I felt like it just felt very rewarding felt like giving back in a way, and also a really great form of self-expression.
Nice, I love it. And I love what you also said about, people naturally promoting your guide, because yes, they are not people don't like sharing sales pages and, even landing pages sometimes they don't like, or webinars, they don't like sharing that stuff. But when there's a free resource that everybody can pretty much see, so many more people are going to click it and read it and share it and so on and so on. They have no reason not to share it. I mean, for them, it's the best resource that they have ever found. And of course, they're going to share it with their friends because, they feel like everybody should really know about it. And that can happen to some extent with blog posts, but with Ultimate Guides, it's really, you basically 10x that. And people just love promoting it for you if you pick the right topic, if you, really create an amazing guide. And that, I think, is exactly what happened with your guide. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about briefly is just the specific, results that you got with your guide. Can you share any numbers of how the guide helped you?
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things. First, I released my guide in tandem with an interview that I did with Ramit Sethi. So I was really honored to be one of the interviewees for his Brain Trust series. And he promotes that to 600,000 people. And then there's a smaller segment that are paid members that get the entire interview. But the interview went out, and he also sent the guide as a resource to people. Now, one thing I have to emphasize is that these things don't magically just happen. With Rami, he's someone that I've been building a relationship with for the past, over 5 years now. And it's just not one thing, it's multiple things and ways I give back and the ways I show up as a star student. So those relationships matter too. And then the other thing is I was just in touch with his team and with him about, the interview. And, I even showed him an email that I was sending to my list about it. And I shared the guide with him beforehand. I didn't just say to someone on the team that didn't have a relationship with me, include the link. I really had some back and forth with Rami, and he included it there. So the link was selenasoo.com/event guide and then -RBT. And the funny thing is, I think it was the next day or so, I see all these articles in Business Insider because I've got a Google alert for my name, and it's Selena Soo on XYZ. I'm why are there all these articles about me? And then I look at it, and it's Libby Kane, and Libby knows me, but I don't believe she's on my email list. But she's on Ramit's email list, and a lot of journalists are on Ramit's list. And she wrote about my guide and then included all these links embedded inside the story to just keep on directing them back to the guide because she saw it as such a helpful resource. And then I clicked on the link, and it was like selenasoo.com event guide /RBT. And the only person that I shared that link with was with Ramit. So I knew that she must have gotten it from his newsletter. So that was great. And I'm trying to think about the exact number. It's hard to tell, only because with my guide and with, I imagine this is the way that you usually suggest people do it, is it wasn't a required opt-in. It was, all the content was there, but there were a couple calls to action that if they wanted to download the full guide, they could. But the other thing is that people get pixeled. And after they get pixeled, then you can retarget to them. But I mean, in that time period of just all the publicity with Ramit mailing, with the guide, and then Business Insider, I mean, it was definitely over 1,000 people. It could have been 1,500 that joined because of it. It's hard to know the exact number, but it was really significant because, with media, it can vary. Sometimes, you get 0 new subscribers. Sometimes you get a dozen. Sometimes you get 100. Sometimes you get 1,000. I've had a couple of times where I've kind of crossed that 1,000 subscriber mark from a piece of publicity, and the Ultimate Guide was one of those times. But the thing is, it wasn't just what happened in those immediate days. It's like even 6 months later, now I'm getting more stuff. And I do find that with articles, sometimes, sometimes the journalists that write about you, they can be hesitant to put links, especially to like a direct opt-in. I mean, sometimes you get lucky and it can happen, but it's not the norm where they're just going to embed multiple opt-in links in your article. But for the Ultimate Guide, I mean, people are constantly referring back to it and just, including it. So it's great for SEO, but it really just drives a lot of traffic to your website. So I would say that was huge. I mean, so in terms of numbers, just to estimate, and I guess over time, sure, like 1,500 people are joining my email list, which is really significant. But beyond just those hard and fast numbers, I had my audience, I shared it with them, and I would say several dozen people. I mean, I don't know the exact number. If I had to guess, maybe like 60 to 80 or 90 people have shared it, which is really significant. It's organic and coming from the heart. My mentor created this amazing guide. I want to share it with you. So all the clicks and likes and views. It's definitely, between Ramit's audience and my audience and all the I'm pretty sure it would have had like over 100,000 hits. So a lot of people saw it.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, I love everything that you've mentioned so far. And I think, I don't want to go too much into detail about creating guides right now.
Sure.
But I think actually I don't recommend to people to publish their guide just as an opt-in, because then you don't get any SEO. People don't like sharing it with others. Publications don't like writing about it. And then you really don't have that viral effect that you can see, because there's just something special about you publishing a piece of content and then suddenly everybody is talking about it. So for that reason, I actually think it's a better idea to just publish it online. Like, of course, you can use it as an opt-in and so on and so on. And I think it's especially brilliant what you did when you had your interview for RBT, which was Ramit's Brain Trust, which was basically you had an interview with Ramit and you talked about publicity and all those great things. And at the end of the interview, like the people who watched the interview, they could go, and see your guide. I think it's awesome because you actually add extra value to them. It's not even about the numbers. It's just about the experience. They're there watching an interview, and most guests, they would just recommend people a book to read or something like that. You really went above and beyond, and you offered them this amazing piece of content exactly about the topic that you talked about right now. And then they can go and read it and, get more value from you. So it's just the experience of customers that I think is really amazing.
Yeah. The other thing I want to add is that, as each of us look to be seen as an expert and share our ideas and content with people, we're going to start getting invited to things, whether we are invited to be a guest speaker in someone's online mastermind group or course, talking to a certain number of clients or whatever. And you always want to have things to share with people. But I find that, other coaches or experts, they don't always want to share opt-in pages, but they might be like, thank you so much, Selena, for being here. Do you have anything to share? And then you share like this guide and like, oh my gosh, it's so valuable. And they'll like send an email to their audience after as a follow-up. Oh, make sure to check out the guide. They'll post it inside the Facebook group. People will discuss it. So, I think, of course, yes, it's important to have some content that has opt-ins. We've all got that in our business. But I think it's also important to have something like an ultimate guide that really showcases you as the expert and just gives tremendous value.
Awesome. I love it. Now I want to spend a little bit more time talking about just the publicity aspect of, creating an ultimate guide on the example of your guide. So it's really funny because we're having this interview today, and just like yesterday, somebody, after how much has it been, like 6 months of you creating the guide, yesterday somebody wrote about your guide on Ink. And then beforehand, somebody again wrote about your guide on Ink beforehand, another person, and then it was mentioned on Business Insider, I think like 3 times within a week.
And it wasn't even like mentioned. The whole article was about me. So like when you get articles written about you online and in print, it's pretty common, and it's a good thing, but they'll feature like multiple experts. They'll get like 1 tip from each expert, but because the guide was so thorough and gave everyone what they needed, it's like we can just make this whole article about Selena and her guide. So this was unique in the sense that the 3 Business Insiders and the 2 Ink articles were entirely about me and my guide. Didn't even feature any other experts.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Now, I know my audience might be wondering, well, that's great for you, that's great for Selena, and, I know I can create, this amazing guide, and that's going to help. But this, process of getting publicity is often very mysterious to people. They're like, how does that happen? So can you share with us, what's the behind the scenes? Like, why does something like this happen? Why would somebody write about your guide on Business Insider? Do you have to have some kind of a relationship beforehand? Do you ask them? Do they just write about you and let you know? Like, how does this process actually work behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, there's a combination of things that are happening. I mean, first and foremost, these editors, these journalists, or these producers, their full-time job is to create content and add value to their audience. So they're always on the lookouts for experts. Sometimes people think, oh, I don't want to be bothering them. But, a lot of these people have requirements, whether it's 30 new articles need to publish per day or whatever, but they're spending hours on end, teams of people trying to find experts in content. So the opportunities are out there, but they're looking for the right people. There's different ways that you can connect with these people. You can send them an email, you can send them a pitch, and that's something that I teach in Impacting Millions, a very specific process around that. Another thing is that, publicity gets more publicity. So once you get one piece, it leads to the next. Me being promoted in Ramit's newsletter, he's not a traditional media outlet, but he is an influencer with a media platform. So that's a form of publicity. Libby Kane sees it there. I'm on Smart Passive Income. That leads to this writer from Ink reaching out to me. I have so many students in Impacting Millions. They'll be on a podcast, and there'll be like 3 other people reached out to them. If you're on a podcast, like say an Entrepreneur on Fire or any podcast that's notable, and there's so many, people are going to look at that. And they're like, other podcasters will be literally going through the list of who was invited as a guest and being like, wow, if they're good enough for Entrepreneur on Fire, they're definitely good enough for me. So, once you start getting just even 1 or 2 things, it can start opening the doors to so many things. And plus you can share that with people as credibility markers when you're pitching yourself. So that happens. Another thing that has happened is in our Impacting Millions program that I run, a publicity program, every month I have different media mentors. And I had one person recently who is a producer, or former producer with Good Morning America. Now she's with Money Magazine, and she helps with video content across the Time Inc. brands. So Time, Health, Essence, everywhere. And my students were doing pitches, and she was reviewing them. And afterwards she said, Selena, I've got this big, multi-million-dollar video project I'm working on. We need a ton of experts. I really liked, there were 8 people or 9 people who were in the hot seat, and she picked like 5 of them. And she's like, I want to have follow-up conversations. So, there's just so many different ways to get in front of people. But, I think that I've made a decision to consistently put myself out there, to do interviews, to say yes to these opportunities that lead to the next one. And, the woman reached out to me from Ink, Melanie, and she said that she just loved my interview on Smart Passive Income, thought there could be some great content for Ink, and, I think she suggested that she could send me some questions. And I'm in the middle of like a launch right now. I mean, I could talk to her, but I was, definitely on the busier side right now. And I said to her, I would love to talk, but actually what might be even better is I've created this ultimate guide. It's really in-depth, piece of content with, over 24 tips, or actually 24 tips and like 5 bonus tips. So 29 tips, take a look at that. And I sent it to her and she's like, oh my gosh, this is perfect, And she like turned around the article right away because I had done everything for her. So I didn't even need to get on the phone. I like did all the work, and she loved working with me. She's like, oh, let's talk again about the next article. And I was like, excellent. And she happens to be in New York City. So I'm like, let's get together in April. Cause I'm, want to talk to her to see if she can do more stuff with my people in Impacting Millions. But yeah, I mean, I think the reason why I got the publicity is because the guide was so valuable. And to get the publicity, you have to know, well, first of all, you have to know how to pitch. But once you start getting publicity, people will start coming to you. And so it's also about having those sound bites ready, that content ready. And I designed the guide in a specific way. I broke it up into sections, what to do to prepare before you even step through the doors of the event, how to follow up with people after the event. So there were lots of different sections, and each section had its own headline, its own series of actionable tips. And it wasn't just like, oh, after an event, you should follow up with people. It gave very specific strategies of like when you collect their business cards, like a coding system to remember who they are, how soon you should follow up, an exact email script, to send to them afterwards. Or when you're at an event and you're feeling awkward and you see people in a corner, how do you kind of break into the conversation? How do you start a conversation? I had several conversation starters. So I all those could be broken into articles. Business Insider had one. The article was something along the lines of, 9, conversation starters, for an event, or, without feeling awkward. And basically they just pulled sections from the Ultimate Guide and turned that into articles. I made their job very easy for them. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh my goodness.
Oh wait, now I'm muted.
Yeah. There you are.
There I am. Yeah, I have some background, like some construction going on in the background, so I try to like mute my mic so you can't hear that sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, cool. So what I love about what you said is, one thing I love is when you create ultimate guides, like of course they can, get a lot of traffic, like your audience can share them, they can get a lot of publicity, like organic publicity from that. But I think, especially once you get it to a more advanced level, there's just something to be said about, publicity and ultimate guides working together. You can do ultimate guides on your own, but, if you actually, mention your ultimate guides in the interviews that you do, or, even like you've said, like send them to publicists when they reach out to you, you just keep getting more and more attention. And I think this is really important because like the ultimate guides that you create, they're going to be so good and you will want to, more people to hear about them. It's not even about, like getting featured in Business Insider. It's about reaching more people that really need to hear about this kind of stuff so that, they can make their lives a little bit better, prepare for the events, or, whatever else you're teaching them. Now, one thing I wanted to talk to you about, because you're the expert on publicity, I wanted to, do some kind of a fun exercise with you and challenge you a little bit. So we have 3 types of people that usually want to create, ultimate guides in my audience. So the first version is the people who are just starting out with their businesses. They have a website, they have an email list, they have maybe a few subscribers, and they really want to create something remarkable so they can, have this piece of content that opens a lot of opportunities for them. The next group of people is people who already have a sizable email list. Maybe they have a few thousand email subscribers and they just want to grow their email list because they know that that's going to move the needle for their business. And, they might want to create an ultimate guide to help them get there. And then the third audience, which is a little bit less people, but it's people which usually with established businesses. So it's people like you, for example, that would create an ultimate guide. They're more advanced, they already have a team. Usually they're not even writing the guide, that a writer would write the guide for them, or, their copywriting team would write the guide for them, and so on and so on. So you have all of these different people. Now, the question for you, I have a couple of questions, but the first question is, would you say that each, all these 3 groups of people should even be thinking about getting publicity for their ultimate guide?
Oh my
and
gosh.
If yes, why yes? Or if not, why not?
Yeah, no, I think that for all of them, it's absolutely important. I think for actually the person in the earlier stage of business, it's even more important than the people who are more advanced. So I'll share why. So when you're in the beginning of your business, like you really need to establish credibility, because it's so normal to be spending, most of the week, like hoping that people want to work with you or sign up for your list. But if they don't see you as the expert, they're not going to, because they've got other options. So an ultimate guide can establish credibility from the get-go. So what I would do if I was like just getting started, if I was just getting started, actually ultimate guide would be on the top of my list as like, something that I need to do, should do, one of the smartest things I could do. So I would like pick a topic, the topic that I want to help people with, and I would focus on having 3 case studies. So I would get clients, and these might even be pro bono clients. It really doesn't matter, but I would work on getting these people amazing results around my, the area that I'm talking about. And I would weave those case studies inside the ultimate guide. And then in addition to those case studies that showcase my results, I would think about what are some other ways I can have the ultimate guide even more credible. Are there, like, let's say I'm talking about goal setting. Maybe I include quotes from Tony Robbins or pictures of Tony Robbins. Like, here's what Tony Robbins says about goal setting, or here's what Tim Ferriss says, or here's what Ramit Sethi says. Because, and you never know, like some of these people like Ramit or whoever, if you write an ultimate guide, and maybe it's also people not at the most highest level, but people who are, maybe a couple years ahead, and they are the rising stars. They'll be dominating the industry in a few years, but they're a little bit more accessible. Include quotes and ideas from them and their articles, and put it out on Twitter, social media, tag them, because they might leave a little comment, they might share it, they might like it, so that gets attention for the guide. So you've got that. And then you've also got all your case studies woven in. So you're really seen as the ultimate expert. The other thing that I would do is then I would send a pitch to the media, and I would say to them, something along the lines of, first you want to introduce yourself, show them that you're interested in their publication and why it's relevant. Share some credibility markers, and share that you've got this ultimate guide. I've got, 3 powerful case studies, and, some of the best ideas around goal setting from Ramit Sethi, Tim Ferriss, and, this person, that person, and then have them check it out. And then also explain, your articles or your story ideas in the form of headlines. This is a mistake. People usually say, I've got a topic, my topic's goal setting. That's not enough. You got to break it down into, ideas, into story ideas. So maybe you've got like 4 bullet points and like, the 5 top secrets of early risers, or what Tim Ferriss and Ramit Sethi do the first thing they wake up in the morning, or 7 steps to reach X goal. So create in the form of headlines, and just like really hand it over to a silver platter to them. So they're like, oh wow, I could write like these 4 articles about this guide, or they go to the guide and they see it broken up in sections, like, oh wow, really there's like 12 story ideas here. And then you're really maximizing it because you're affiliating yourself with other influencers, you're giving them more credibility, you're potentially getting them press. If they get in the media, you're getting media for yourself. And you've got these incredible case studies. And once you've got those 3 case studies, you can get more case studies and sign on more clients. So, I think it's so important at the beginning. At the later stages, if someone's already pretty blown up, they may or may not need one-on-one clients. They probably already have a lot of other credibility markers in place, or funnels, or whatever, Facebook ads to get them. But as a beginner, I think that this is kind of like, if you do that, it's kind of like the 80-20 rule. You do the ultimate guide, do it right, and get publicity for it. You've done 80% of the marketing that you need to do. You're like taking care of for the next couple months.
Awesome. I love it. And it's funny because like all these things you're talking about, like I'm teaching pretty similar concepts in the course. So I love it. So people probably will already have heard these things, but we never had a conversation about ultimate guides in the past, which is why I'm so excited, because I guess great mind thinks alike.
Yeah, exactly. No, and I think that sometimes people need to hear things multiple times and from different sources to really get it. And it's not just about doing it, it's about doing it right. And so I love that, you are taking people step by step from A to Z. And, I do the same thing with publicity. So I think this is like highly complementary. And then I think, when you're later along in your business, what you might want to do, I wouldn't recommend this for a beginner, but I would recommend this for people who are at that higher level of business, is to consider running Facebook ads to your ultimate guide. And you should definitely be pixeling your ultimate guide. And I don't know if you talk to people about that, but a lot of people will be landing on the ultimate guide. And in the future, when you've got group programs or, whatever it is, you can pixel and retarget people who've looked at that. So I think that it can be just good to just share it on social media. But when you run Facebook ads, you guarantee, tens or hundreds of thousands of people can look at that. So I would recommend that for the higher levels. But I think the steps are all similar, in terms of what I would recommend for the ultimate guide. You want to make it interesting. You want to make it media friendly, lots of store ideas, tips, sections, headlines. incorporate other interesting people and ideas. So it's not just about you. It's about, other people also saying, talking about your topic of expertise. There's more reasons to cover it. Also, if you can embed research in your guide, so if it's like goal setting, a recent study came out from the Mayo Health Clinic about XYZ, that's going to make it really great for the media to cover it and just lends more credibility in general. So, I like that you asked this question, because sometimes people think, well, I'm just starting, I'm really busy. Shouldn't I just be, pounding the pavement, picking up the phone? You can certainly pick up the phone, but the thing is, if you don't have that credibility yet, people are going to get on the phone with you. And instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to you, I feel so lucky, they're going to be like, well, I'm interviewing 5 other coaches. What makes you the best coach? And they have you do like a song and dance. And you don't want someone to be auditioning you. That you want them to already be bought into the idea that, hey, I want to work with you. You want them to say like, I read your ultimate guide and it was incredible. I love this. And I read the case studies in the guide and I'm just really intrigued. And I just want to, talk about us working together. That's a situation you want to be in. So I think that sometimes people can think, oh, it's a lot of work. And I mean, it certainly is work to put together an ultimate guide.
Yeah.
I mean, for anything that I've achieved, it's required work. But the question is, what is the payoff? And I think the payoff for the ultimate guide is very high. And it's not a one-time payoff. It's really like a lifetime payoff. And all these indirect benefits, beyond just the guide, it's the new email subscribers, it's building the reputation, it's the media you can get. It's so many things. So I encourage people to seriously consider it. And they're definitely learning it. If they're going to learn from anyone, they should definitely learn from you. And if they want to maximize and supercharge the results of their guide, they may want to consider adding publicity as part of the mix to really amplify the reach and the impact.
Awesome. I love it. I actually just want to talk about one more thing before we actually talk about your program impacting millions. And that's what you've just mentioned right now, which is like those other benefits, that people maybe don't see. Like, yes, the Ultimate Guide, it is about subscribers. It is about business growth. It's about getting to those 1,000 subscribers that you want and, all those things. And that's important. But I think there's so many other good things that happen with Ultimate Guide. Like, you mentioned earlier, you could mention other experts in there. And if you get press, then they get press. And is there any other, better way to build a relationship with them when, just start out? It's like I created this amazing piece of content, you're in it and you got thousands of people to your site, and hi, I'm Primoz. You don't have to ask for anything. You maybe just let them know. And that's like the best first impression. Right.
And you don't even need to do an interview with them, because a lot of people get contacted like, oh, can you give me some quotes for this roundup post and this and that? And a lot of people start to just say no to that because there's just too many requests. But if they have written articles online and blog posts, or you've attended their webinars, or you read their newsletter, there are ideas that you can include in them, or just say, I'm really inspired by what Ramit Sethi shares about X, Y, and Z. So you don't even need their permission. I mean, obviously, sometimes you'll know, like, okay, in this case, maybe I do need to ask. But if you're just saying you admire them, or here's a quote from them, something that is available to the public, you can certainly include that. And in your ultimate guide, you can even include links back to their site and to their resources. I mean, they would love you even more, or links to their books and things like that. So it really can be a win-win. And I don't know, I think with these, this is just my personal opinion. Everyone's different. I appreciate depth more than breadth. And so I know sometimes people will create, whether it's a roundup post or something else, and they just include 100 people and they're like, oh, hey, Selena, I've given you some sugar online. I'm like, what are you talking about? And like, I've mentioned you, and I go to it and they've mentioned a lot of great people who I admire, let's say like Ramit and Tim Ferriss and whatever. And they've got a list of like honorable mentions, and maybe I'll be in it, or some other people. And I'll just be like one mention of me or a link or whatever. And they're just trying to like stuff like 100 people in an article. And they're trying to get you to share it. And it's like, well, there wasn't really any in-depth content, so I wouldn't share that, because I only share things where I feel like it really does showcase my ideas. And it seems like this was more of a marketing thing than really let's add value and go deep. I think that's what we're all about as experts. Sometimes when we get our ideas out there in the media, we can't get all of the ideas out, but ultimately we want people to really get a sense of what we're about. So I would say, you want to think about the marketing piece, but you don't want it to be more of a marketing thing than really an adding value type thing.
Awesome, I love it. And then one last question. So you mentioned earlier that, like with this publicity opportunity, you just shared an ultimate guide with someone and they could just do all the research and they could see that you create amazing content and so on and so on. Now I'm curious, let's say, if I create an ultimate guide versus if I don't create an ultimate guide and I try to get publicity, how would creating an ultimate guide make it easier for me to actually get publicity?
Oh my gosh, it's so helpful. Because the thing is, like when you're pitching yourself to the media, you want to share your credibility markers and all of that so they know that you're an expert. But the other thing is, like when someone's featuring you, they want to know that you've got good ideas. They want to know that you've got sound bites that they could quote, like tips that they could pull. And so with a pitch, because a pitch is meant to be a pitch, it's not meant to be a novel. But there's only so much that you can showcase. But with an ultimate guide, you can show all of it. You can show your credibility markers. You can show your success stories. You can show your research. You can show your tips, your takeaways, it's all there, And so I think that it can build the trust factor extremely quickly, not just like, oh, I'm assuming that if this person has got these credibility markers, they're great. This is the actual proof. And also with the media, it makes their job easy. They're on deadlines. They want to get things done quickly. They look at that and they're like, oh my God, like I'm just looking at this ultimate guide and there are 7 story ideas right here. And for each story idea, there's multiple tips. It's like, I'm done. Like this just saved me hours of work.
Yeah.
It's like game over. I just want to work with this person. So it is really helpful. Branding, content marketing, publicity, everything. Yeah, I should probably be talking about that more and impacting millions. I'll be bringing that up. But yeah, I know for me, it's been very directly related to getting publicity. The easiest publicity I've gotten is through the ultimate guide.
Awesome. I love it. Now, I do want to spend some more time, talking about your Impacting Millions program that you're actually launching right now. And I love that you're launching Impacting Millions because it is such a great course. There's so many things I love about it. First thing is it's a strategic course. Like you could, there could be a million ways to get publicity. There, you could read a million articles, like how to get featured here or there or whatever. But I love that, in Impacting Millions, you actually strategically break down, who should get what kind of publicity at which publications, and then just show them step by step how to do it. You also have this incredible community. Like I see it all the time when you're posting in your Impacting Millions Insider Circle. There's always all of these people that are offering you opportunities. You can just literally apply there to be featured somewhere. You have all of these media mentor webinars, I think every month, right?
Yes.
So you can come there and you can actually talk to these media experts, people that you wouldn't be able to reach otherwise. You can just go and you could pitch them or talk to them or ask them questions. It's such a valuable course. It's really an incredible course, and that's why I love doing this interview about it with you, because I think it also just works so well with the ultimate guides. And as you mentioned earlier, I think a lot of people can benefit from getting publicity for their ultimate guides. And I'm curious, for my audience, the people who are interested in creating ultimate guides, or even other people that might not be in my course right now, but they're listening to this interview, who are the types of people that should join Impacting Millions, and who are the types of people who should not join Impacting Millions right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think the interesting thing is sometimes people wonder, does it have to do with my stage of business? Do I need to be super advanced? Do I need tons of clients already to really benefit from the publicity? Other people say, like, can I be, pure beginner and benefit from the publicity? And the thing is, like, as you've seen, because you're inside Impacting Millions, you've got people at all stages of business. You've got people that have just gotten started, but they know that they want to, make a big impact from the get-go. And there are people who are more advanced and like, I want to take this to the next level. I want to get publicity because I want to get a book deal and I want to get invited to speak on big stages. So the level of business doesn't matter. And some people have already gotten a lot of publicity, but they joined Impacting Millions because they want to get more publicity. And they want to know how to strategically leverage it to grow their business, to grow their email list, to use it in strategic ways to sell out their group programs and to get more high-end clients. So it's not just a publicity course. It's also, very much a business course. And so it's really good for people at all levels. One thing I would say is when you start getting publicity, it is a good idea to know to have an offering, to be accepting private clients, or to have an email list. Because if you're going to be generating a lot more interest, people are going to be coming to you, they're going to be checking out your website. If you don't have an opt-in up, then that is kind of missing out on an opportunity. With that being said, you can get an opt-in up, in a day. You can get a website up in a day, actually. But I would recommend, having something there so that when people learn about you and they Google you, or they're being directed, there's somewhere that they're going to. And, if you're, say, doing a podcast interview and you're talking about, the amazing work you've done with people are going to want to be able to work with you. So you do want to have, some offerings in place. You don't have to be perfect. You can figure it out over time. But I think that if you were in a place where you're like, I don't know what I stand for, I don't know if I want to be known as a love coach or a health coach or a goal setting coach, or I'm not sure what my offerings are, I'm not sure if I want to offer this or that. You can still join the program, but once you start getting publicity, you do want to be ready, because that's when people are going to be coming to you. So that would be the only, thing I would say you'd want to consider. But really, it's great for people at all levels of business. These are the things that I do, and I work to get publicity for myself. So, it's what I do. It's what my top clients do. All my clients right now are all 7-figure business owners. So they are following these strategies to maximize their publicity. And I've got people at all levels, people who are just getting started. I think about, I have this one woman who was a sleep coach, and she didn't have traditional credentials in terms of being like a medical doctor or anything, but she has been everywhere. She was just making the list, and I was just blown away, like Reader's Digest and Entrepreneur on Fire and Brides. And there's an article coming out on Refinery 29, and just so many podcasts and, lists. I remember someone who actually, she joined the program and she wasn't really clear on her message. I remember we did a group call, and she got to speak to one of our media mentors, and it was a little bit I guess at the time not very refined and a bit all over the place. But just recently, she was sharing in the group, I've been featured here and here and here, and just this long list of all these places that were covering her story. And she came into the program being confused and not sure, but through the program she got her ideas refined, and she was able to get so many opportunities. We even have Ramit's mom who joined the program, which was really special. Actually, Ramit's mom and his 2 sisters, it's the whole family is basically in the program. And, they're all at different levels. His sister Rachita, I'm not sure if she had a website, or maybe she just had a website, but the program got her to kind of get things together and get the website ready. Also, his mom got, website, very simple website together. His mom was on Farnoosh Torabi's so many podcasts. Farnoosh is, the monthly columnist for personal finance for Oprah Magazine, has got a podcast. But yeah, so many people from all levels, from, Ramit's mom, who was a school teacher and who isn't, an online marketing person, figuring this out and sharing her story later in life, to people that have other people that have no traditional credentials that are getting publicity and using publicity to, that is their credential now, sharing their stories. So I don't have any examples of people that can't be successful, because people even who weren't clear became clear. But I think it's also something that you've got to want. I think one of the benefits, though, to impacting millions is that it's not just, so we've got 90 days of live training, 6 core webinars, but the program is year-long, because when it comes to impacting millions, it's not just about, it's not a one-time thing. It's not a 30-day thing. It's an ongoing commitment to putting your ideas out there. And I know that we can all get busy with our lives, but the cool thing is you're in this Facebook group, and people are like, I got my first article published on Huffington Post and got, 20 new subscribers. I did this podcast interview, and I booked my first ever client at $3,000 for, a 6-month program. And you're hearing all these stories, and you're like, if they can do it, of course I can do it too. And when people get these opportunities, we'll invite them from time to time to write these mini guest posts in the group that we call insider shares. And so you're being taken behind the scenes, step by step, how they did it, the pitch they sent, how they leveraged it. And so even if, I mean, obviously I encourage everyone to attend the live training, and, you know, we spend a lot of time making it the best content, no fluff, all action and gold and insights. But even if you just like are in the Facebook group and just like read a couple of the posts and watch what's going on, you will be learning and growing and elevating yourself just by being a part of that community alone. So I think that, you know, I really set it up so that people to just maximize, you know, everything, people's growth, people's learning, to make the most of people's time. So it's really, the entire program is set up to make you very, very successful. And, you know, I mean, you can read an article, or you can be like, I know what I should be doing. That's different from doing it. It's different from having support. And this, you know, setup and being able to get feedback on the Media Mentor webinars. So I don't really think of Impacting Millions as just a course. I think of it as an experience, a year-long experience with other incredible people that you will become friends with. You know, and the other thing is, like, you know, you are the people that you spend your time with. So you want to spend your time with successful, driven people who are going places, because being a part of that environment will lead to you being one of those people as well.
Awesome. I love it. I love this so much, because it's not about money at this stage. I mean, you know, you could, you know, maybe you can charge a little bit more for a program that's, you know, 1 year long versus a 3-month course. I'm doing a similar thing with my program, where we're doing a 1 year thing on Ultimate Guides. We're not just doing like, you know, we're doing a 10-week training, and then we're doing like a year of full support from me. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to support people. Like, my main thing is I want them to be successful. That's the main thing. And I want to do, especially with the first group of people that go for the program, I want to do really everything that I can, you know, to get them case studies, for them to work with each other, and so on and so on. And I know sometimes, you know, life comes in between. And what if life comes in between, you know, when you're going for a course? You finish the course, 8 to 10 weeks, you spend thousands of dollars on it, and then you're on your own. You know,
right.
It's a really bad experience. But, you know, on the other side, like what you're doing with your course and what I'm doing with mine is, you know, even if for whatever reason, you know, you can't, you know, go for the course immediately, if you go for it at your own space, even, you know, 3, 6, 9, even 12 months from, you know, the time that you join, there's still all these other people, you know, they're getting opportunities, they want to help you out, they welcome you in, there's these webinars, you can just dive right into it and not feel like you fell behind. It's like it's right there, and you can just dive into it and, you know, keep benefiting it for a whole year. And, you know, I love that you're doing this, because it really shows that you care about the success of your students. You know, that you're not just creating a course that you then have on automation in the background and so on and so on. No, you know, you're actually taking the time to work with your students. And that's something that really makes you different from everybody else. You know, from a lot of even the top experts in this industry, is like, you really spend the time, you know, in your community. You spend the time in your community, and you spend like so much time. You encourage people, you help them get opportunities, you support them, you answer their questions. I don't think, honestly, there's anyone who is as active and, you know, as amazing in their communities as you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, people are like, I'm surprised you're like so active in the group. And it's kind of like, well, where else would I be? I mean, everyone's got their thing, but for me, like, my life purpose and mission is really to elevate amazing experts and have them share their ideas with the world. I feel like, you know, to change the world, we have to first change ourselves. And I think as experts, we are helping people change their lives on an individual level. We're opening them to new possibilities, whether it's starting a business, having better health, leaving a toxic relationship, learning new skills, but we're really empowering people. And so I know that when I even put a little bit of time into the group, like, the benefits are so big. And it's exciting for me, because when people get publicity, it's not just, oh, I got a media hit. It really changes your self-image. Like, hey, like, you know, Business Insider, Forbes, Huffington Post, you know, Thrive Global, they feature my advice. It changes how you feel about yourself. And it changes how your audience sees you too. And it opens up your doors to so many opportunities. So, I mean, and in the course, we talk so much about how to leverage publicity, but, you know, I mean, even just on the surface level, it's like, now you've got media logos you can put on your website for the rest of your life. When you're introduced at events, you know, they're like, hey, I'm bringing to the stage, you know, Jennifer, who's been featured in here and here and here. And it's like, wow, like, the ways that you can use it for the rest of your life, you can't tell me that it's not worth it to spend some time getting a couple of media hits, you know? And then we teach you how to leverage it in the course. So yeah, I feel really great about the community, because I really want people to succeed. And there are some people that are able to jump in and take action immediately in the first 3 months are getting all these results. There's other people that are kind of emerging in months 4, 5, 6, but by the end of the year, there's certainly plenty of time to have gotten a whole ton of opportunities. And yeah, it's amazing what can happen when we work together and when you have the knowledge and the support and everything. And I really spent a lot of time designing the program to get results. I used to have a mastermind that was about $25,000. And the interesting thing is, like, in Impacting Millions, there were people that were getting results just as good as the mastermind. And I was like, oh, wow. I wasn't sure if that would happen, but it did. And it's like, and when you learn these publicity skills, they're skills that you use for life. So I think, it's one of those things where in business, there's certain skills you need to have. You need to know how to copyright, for example. Even if you hire a copywriter in the future, you need to know how to write copy. I think, and I really believe that you need to know how to do publicity, and publicity is not just traditional publicity. It's also, with your peers and your colleagues and them sharing your work with other people and developing those relationships. And, a peer of yours sharing your ultimate guide on social media is a form of publicity because they've got their own media platform. So this is a skill that you don't want to be without, because there's always opportunities. And you have to have the skill set to know how to seize them and maximizing them. Otherwise, you're just leaving so much on the table. So this is not something that's like, oh, let me do it 3 years from now. This is like, you should be doing this now. You should have this understanding, because there are constantly opportunities for you to reach more people. But if you don't know what to do with them and how to get them and how to be positioned as someone who is, worthy of them, then you're really missing out in a very big way.
Awesome. I love it. I think, as I said before, Publicity and Ultimate Guides work hand in hand really, really well. And if there's any course or any expert that I would want my audience to go to, it's definitely you. And especially because, you have this program that is a 1-year program. As I said to people, like, in a year, you can create 1 to 3 ultimate guides, as many as you want to, depending on how much time you have. It's not just about creating 1 ultimate guide. It's about really creating great content on a consistent basis. And it's the same with publicity. You don't get featured in 1 article or whatever. It's something that you can keep doing over and over again to continue growing your business, growing your brand, reaching the people that you want to reach, and really impacting millions of people. So I love that. Now, I do know that even though, our courses are both like 1-year courses, so they're not these things, where you have to go through it in 8 weeks to be on your own, there is going to be a concern that's going to come up, to not join your course. And that's going to be, am I going to be too overwhelmed by doing two of the same courses at the same time? Because there is a lot of work. There's a lot of work with an Ultimate Guide, and publicity doesn't just come on your own. Maybe Ultimate Guides makes publicity easier, but it still is a lot of work. You do have to put in the work. So my question is for you is, if you were a student and you were going through my course and you were creating an Ultimate Guide, how would you, strategically go through your course? Would you go through the whole course, just parts of it, so you can get more publicity for your Ultimate Guide?
Yeah, it just depends on how much time people have. With Impacting Millions, we release 1 module, or not really, release, but I teach it live every 2 weeks. So what we typically do is it's about 50 minutes usually of training and then Q&A afterwards. So, it's usually like up to 2 hours. But if you just listen to the 50-minute training, you should be good. And also, we ran this course last year, and me and my team, we went through all the Q&A afterwards, and then we refined the program. So we're aware of kind of what questions could come up. So it's really, really solid content. So if you have 50 minutes every 2 weeks, you can stay on track with the program. And I think for anybody who, has the bandwidth to do this, it's not a huge amount of time, 50 minutes for 2 weeks. You don't even need to take action right away. I think that there's a lot of ways to go about it. Everyone knows what works best for them. But I think one thing that I would suggest is going through the course, on the current schedule and just having the information. If you don't take action on it right away, you have that information and it can inform you. And it might make you even more excited about working on the Ultimate Guide, because you're like, oh, I'm seeing how I could use this for my guest posts. I see how I could use this for, magazine articles. You're able to connect the dots. So I think that, you want to have the knowledge in your head And over the course of 3 months, if you can fit in the 6 modules, like 50 minutes, or sometimes they're a tiny bit shorter, like you're good. So I don't think it's too much content. I mean, you can dive into the resources and the Q&A later if you want. But, also, I mean, there's lifetime access to the recordings, and so you can always listen to them later. But I think there is that excitement when, we're all going through it together and people in the group are going to be discussing it. So if you can squeeze in 50 minutes once every 2 weeks, I would encourage that.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's less than an hour, once every 2 weeks. And honestly, like with the people that I work with my students on creating their ultimate guides, I tell them like, hey, when you create ultimate guides, you don't need to write regular blog posts every 2 weeks if you're running a side business. You don't need to email your list if you have 17 subscribers. Like you don't need to do so many of those things. You don't need to go for guest post opportunities and reach out for them, because they will come to you once you publish your ultimate guide. That makes everything so much easier. So the good side of my students is, they don't have to worry about all of these things. Right now, they're mostly just focused on creating their ultimate guides, and that's the main thing that they're doing. And what I loved about what you said is, just come to our calls. You don't even have to stay for the Q&A. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. What's going to happen, because I see this happen like every single time when I go for courses, is you can go for a course, you get information into your head, and then as you're working on your guide, as you're writing your guide, you'll think about, oh, I heard this thing from Selena. This is how I could incorporate it in my guide. So it's not more work. It's you're listening, and then you're not doing the extra work. You're just doing what you're already doing, and then you're doing it better. And then maybe once you finish the guide, then you'll go and spend a little bit more time, actually getting some more publicity for it. So it's like you don't have to go through this whole course and everything, but you just have to have the information in here. You have to know how it works, and then when you need to use it, it's there.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm so excited for people to be working on their ultimate guides, because it's really the 80-20. Like once they get the guide ready, their publicity efforts are going to be so much easier and faster. So yeah, I think they should be armed with the publicity knowledge, so that they can connect the dots and really make the most out of it. But yeah, once they get the guide, like they're going to be steps ahead from other people. So that's very exciting.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I mean, we covered everything that I want to cover on my end, and I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just the last thing is that, Impacting Millions opens doors only once a year. So, it's kind of like it's a now or never thing. And when it comes to your dreams and being visible and being seen as that go-to expert, it's not something that you want to put off for years and years. I know for me, I did things to establish myself as the expert from the get-go, as did Primoz, and as have so many people that you admire. So I think that, it's going to be exciting to, jump in with people. At the end of the day, what's best for you. But if you are working on an ultimate guide and you want to make the most of it, I think publicity is extremely complimentary. It's probably the best thing that you can do to really supercharge everything you're doing. So it's just once a year. Keep your eyes open for it. I know that Primoz will be sharing more with you when the time comes. And also my personal email is hello@selenasoo.com if you want to say hi. It's funny because even my team doesn't have access to that. People think, oh, it's her assistant. It's actually me. So if you want to say hi, let me know what you learned from the interview. I always love hearing from people. So that's my email.
Awesome. That's amazing. So we'll include all the links, to the guides that we talked about, like all the articles, like, the link to Impacting Millions if you want to join at this time. As I said, I can't recommend Impacting Millions enough. It really is like, putting gasoline on the fire. You create this ultimate guide and then you just supercharge it. You could get double the results from it, and, for not that much extra work. So yeah, oh my God, I love this interview. It was so much fun. I could talk about ultimate guides all day long, and I pretty much do it nowadays. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your day, because I know you're in the middle of a launch right now, and it's not a time when you have a lot of time, but I really, really appreciate that, and for sharing all of your awesome advice with my audience.
Oh, you're so welcome. This was such a blast for me. This is so synergistic. I feel like it's important for people to know about, the ultimate guides and doing that together with publicity. I mean, my most recent piece of press, as I said yesterday, came from my own ultimate guide. So this is something I really believe in. So thank you, Primoz.
Awesome. Thank you. And have an awesome launch.